Chickens. Where you at?
Huge shout out to all of the Adventurers Guild members here on YouTube and all of the supporters from Patreon for their dedicated support of keeping this channel always on the rise.
Chickens. Where you at?
Huge shout out to all of the Adventurers Guild members here on YouTube and all of the supporters from Patreon for their dedicated support of keeping this channel always on the rise. I realized I probably should have named this morning's chat something along the lines of homesteading. I just dropped my glasses. That's not good because I was just getting caught up on Discord chat before I had you never know if this thing's centered until you get the camera on, and then it's like, is it really centered on my face? Is it really on there good? Whatever. I'm old. I shouldn't give a shit. I'm trying to make a living here, so I kind of got to care a little bit. Nobody needs to see my bedhead this morning. I need a haircut. It looks kind of cool, but it's scruffy. But now it's getting to that length where I got to pull it back and makes me look like a creepy, slicked back hair dude. Homesteading. That's a good topic for this morning. Let's talk about that a little bit this morning. Here in a bit. I need a few minutes. Chris and I had a late wake up this morning. Stayed up late last night with World of Warcraft. I did not read last night. I was supposed to read last night. What's up, Dish? Did not get any reading done last night. So I'm behind on my reading, so I need to try to do some reading this afternoon. Because I got the first chapter of Two Towers is due on Monday. Well, the first read through for Mondays in Middle Earth. Anyway, last night was fun. I'm gonna put this up so everybody can see. So as of last night, yesterday we were talking yesterday morning. We crushed our celebration. We crushed our goals the other night. Yesterday morning we had a celebration post. We raised some more money yesterday morning. Then last night we were streaming and we just got to talking and it was like, you know what? Let's just let's just do it. I was trying to come up with stretch goals. And so now we have a stretch goal. We have our first stretch goal, which is chicken coop supplies. So the $500 covers that's bills, and for people who want to support me as a content creator, cool, thank you very much. If you're contributing, super chats, stickers, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. Now that we're past the bills for the month, now we're going into the chicken coop supplies. Um, so yesterday was Chris running around getting soaking wet because of chickens. Because the rainstorm came through and we don't have a chicken coop yet. So that's where we're going now. We're in a stretch goal territory, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk about that this morning. So thanks to everybody. We're way beyond our $500 goal now. So we're on to a $750 goal, um, which would be chicken coop supplies. If we get to that, then we'll go to the next stage beyond, which is going to be the power tools that I need to build the damn chicken coop. Oh, it's so funny going from selling all my tools and my company and everything in 2007, not needing tools or a vehicle, not needing tools or a vehicle for all these years. And then now buying a house in the countryside and needing tools again for sure, and kind of needing a vehicle again. The vehicle thing's not a necessity at this point, but it is something that we're looking at going, we kind of do need to get a car at some point because the city's 2 hours away. So anytime we want to go to the city, we got to get on a bus. It's not a big deal. The buses here are great. But it still becomes, instead of just a straight up 2 hour trip, it becomes a 2 and 45. It adds like 45 minutes to the trip because of needing to leave a little bit early to get to the bus station, to wait in line to get on the bus, to wait for the bus to leave, and the bus drives slower than a car and all this other stuff. It might actually add an hour onto that trip. So instead of a 4 hour trip, it turns into a 6 hour trip. And that just depends, temps too, if you can coordinate your schedule to jive with the departure schedule of the buses. Food for thought. But that's next year stuff. Right now, I think the most direct thing is because the carpenter flaked out, we actually are going to have to build our own stuff. So that's what we're working on now. Starting to look towards that. But I really should have checked Discord this morning. Um, I'm typing. We got P99 tonight, so I'm chatting with the group. Uh, the Sorry to get sidetracked. Let's talk homesteading for a minute because this ties into. I hadn't checked the. I'm getting sidetracked with Discord chat. Um, I didn't check the general chat before I created the title and everything for today's video, and there's a whole bunch of people talking about homesteading, and unfortunately, my brother and I have had some really good talks about how homesteading right now has some negative things. Um, so because we follow a lot of homesteaders and people on TikTok and YouTube and so on and so forth, and there's nothing wrong with being there's nothing wrong with wanting to grow your own vegetables and grow your own produce and be self-sustainable to a degree to help offset the cost of living because the cost of living is ridiculous and it's not getting any cheaper. The dangerous side of homesteading is when you get into the prepping category. And not just the preppers, but the doomsday homesteaders who are all about how the world is ending, you got to stock up, the apocalypse is coming, get all the guns and ammo and save up 25 years worth of beans. The government's coming to get you, you know, government conspiracy, apocalypse conspiracy people. Um, that kind of side of homesteading is I don't want to say it's dangerous, but it's scary. Um, Having a home in the countryside and and wanting to live off the land and have your own produce and chickens and that's all well and good, but as long as you don't get into the whole, well, now that I'm off the grid, the government's out to get me, so we got to disconnect from the electricity grid because they're monitoring me, and I got to build a bunker because the nukes are coming. Sure, they could. And the zombie apocalypse is coming, maybe. And yeah, I need my guns. All right, yeah. Now you've kind of gone off the deep end of the homesteading track. I think it was 6 years. The homeschooling conversation is a good one too. Awesome, Desh. Unrest can be fun if you can get a good group. Only noobs wear the hats backwards, dude. Yeah, whatever. Joey, you were the only one not homeschooled, I think. You got lucky because you came on the tail end when mom didn't have the patience to homeschool anymore. But Joey, you were here. You were telling me you're following some dude on social media. If you're still here, we were talking about homesteading before you joined. Like, oh, you were homeschooled a little bit till fourth grade. Like talking about the homesteading is okay and everything if you just want to live off the land and grow your own food, offset the cost of living, and enjoy the fruits of your own labor. That's a different kind of homesteading because then there's the other side of homesteading, which is we're all living in a Fallout video game universe. The government's coming to get me. I need a nuclear bunker to protect me against the zombie apocalypse, and um, I need to save up 25 years worth of beans and rice, and I need all the guns that the world has to offer because it's the only way I'm going to be able to protect myself against the nuclear apocalypse, zombie apocalypse, government, um, Wrangler Star. Gotcha. I need to go look at him some more today. I like that. Can't remember his name now because I haven't seen any of his posts in a while because I quit watching them. But for a while, I was watching that the crazy skinny guy who was living with his sister off grid. They bought that homestead property together, and he had the outdoor kitchen, and he was building all the outbuildings, and he was living in a camper. I can't remember his name now. He was borderline like they did it for interesting reasons, like they just wanted to get off the grid. But once they got out there, he kind of turned into, I'm only going to shower once every 6 months. And he never cooked for himself. Like the last videos I saw of him, Nate. The last videos I watched of him were a couple months back, and he had people coming out and staying with him to have the homesteader experience. And for the first time in like 6 months, he was actually eating good food because his wife left to go deal with. I guess her mom had cancer or something, um, and so her mom was off. His wife was off caring for the mom with cancer. Um, but I know a lot of people were like, "Dude, it's been 6 months. Like, is your wife really caring for mom with cancer, or is that just the reason you've given everybody for the fact that your wife just bailed?" Um, didn't want to do the homesteading anymore. And then his sister left the homesteading property, and it was literally just him trying to handle animals and everything else. And he was literally living out off of canned food. And it's like you're not like that's not healthy. Like at that point, you're not showering, you're not living, you're not eating food properly. You're just eating out of cans, and that's not how I would envision homesteading going or being. Um, I gotta find a good. Yeah, you don't have to be gross about it. That's the key. Um, so hopefully by the end of the month, I will finally start to put up some videos of our place on marginal boundaries. It was pretty bad when we moved in. It's still, by Western standards, our home is still below what many people would consider to be acceptable because of just it needs a lot of work. Um, you don't see a lot because all you ever see is this. This is a controlled view, and I've showed people before. Like there's this kind of stuff is all over the place. Like there's no baseboards. It's just painted concrete. The paint is just water paint on top of block, and it's just coming off because of the condensation. You can see flakes on the floor there. nobody sees that kind of stuff because it's a controlled view. That whole wall, the plumbing all needs to be ripped out and redone. Um, Last night, so I think about a month ago when the rainy season started, Chris had we were sitting here and I was playing P99. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden Chris bursts in here at like 7:30. She's like, "Help!" And I run out and we almost flooded the house. Like the backyard, because of reasons, it's the church next door didn't put a drain in the wall like they're supposed to, and so the backyard just floods. And so Crinkle, we were talking about this the other day in my other stream. So the water is supposed to the only place for the water to run now is down the side of the house, which is like a 15-inch wide channel between the wall of our house and the wall of our neighbor's property. That's it. That's where the water goes. And we had blocked that up to keep the kittens from getting out like 3 months ago, right? And never unblocked. So then when it rained like 2 weeks ago, we didn't know that that was where the rain was going to go. And Chris comes around, and I go running out. The water was half an inch from going over the curb outside of our house into our house, and it would have flooded the entire house, rushing its way through out to the street out front. And thankfully, everything here is concrete, right? But that's the kind of stuff like if you go look at our backyard, it would horrify because it's not landscaped. It's packed dirt with, there's like three different patches of concrete from the renters who lived here because this used to be her mom's place and her mom sold it to us. And she never checked up on it. So the renters just did whatever they wanted. And so one built a concrete pad for their pigs over here, and another one built a concrete pad for their chickens over here. And so there's like three different concrete pads in the backyard that, in order for me to get rid of, is going to require a sledgehammer and a ton of labor to break those things up and get them out of the yard. There's no drainage, so I got to fix that problem. The house hasn't been like properly waterproofed or anything in probably 15, 20 years since it was built. So like we need to get up on the roof and clean the entire roof, and we need to waterproof the entire roof and repaint the entire exterior. Got to be cleaned first. Um, all this paint needs to come off the wall somehow. That's going to be a huge task. There's no screens on any of the windows, and the windows that are here are these slat windows that you got to pull down and they just open up. So I would love to replace those, but they're literally built into the block wall. So if you think about that for a minute, it's a metal T-bar. If you don't know what a metal T-bar is, where that's the easiest way to describe it. It's a T-bar, and that gets set um, into the block for support around that, and then everything gets attached to that T-bar. So it's metal inside of a block wall. So to try to replace these windows is not something. It's not unscrew it, take a sledgehammer and beat some wood out. It's no, I gotta full on cut everything out, and then we're gonna have to rebuild and structurally support the block wall, and there's a lot of work. This is why Chris and I have looked at it. It's probably a 2-year project to get it up to where we want it to be. Um, and on top of that was just um, oh, I'm checking Discord again. Sorry guys, get sidetracked. Don't settle for subsisting. That's a good way to look at it. I'm borderline right now. Um, and I say borderline, it's really not the case. I consider it borderline, but it's not really. We have running water, we have electricity, I have air conditioning, I have good internet, we have gas, we have a kitchen, we have a big ass backyard, we have a decent sized 1 bedroom house, but we don't use most of it right now because it's just so damn hot and we haven't finished remodeling the rest of the house yet. I consider it subsisting because I literally live in my office. There's a bed back there. I sleep here and I work here, and I only leave here to go eat and go to the grocery store and help Chris with chores and stuff. And then throughout the week, we work on projects, and slowly we're fleshing out the rest of the house and getting it up to modern standards. The big thing has been the outdoor. outdoor stuff because we had to get it all taken care of. So the chicken coop is the number one thing, and then the drain, the side of the house is a that's gonna be a project. Um, the iguanas, I don't know what we're gonna do about iguanas long term. That's a problem neither one of us knew about before we moved here. Um, yes, that Joey has a good. So my brother has a good perspective here. I have a nice house. It needs work, and most people want to live beyond their means, and they want the latest and greatest things. So they want a 50-inch plasma big screen, and they want the newest this, that, and the other. They want perfection, and if you're willing to live within your means and not do things on credit and do it by yourself with your own two hands, that takes time and effort. So I always say that we're doing homesteading the right way, except we're not really homesteading because we're not living off the land. We don't have a garden. I buy chicken from the lady down the street. She kills chickens. She's one, two, three doors down. She kills chickens for a living. That's what she does. She raises and kills chickens. So I don't go to the supermarket to get my chicken. I go to the lady down the street and get chicken. Um, I get fresh corn tortillas from the corner store, which are made down the street. So I can go down the street and get them there, but it's closer to just go across the street to the corner store. And that's made from corn that is raised here in town. Um, our fruits and vegetables from the fruit market, I'd say about 50% of that produce is local grown from the people who live in and around here, especially when we talk about melons, cucumbers, corn. Chris isn't in here to tell me what else is grown around here, but like watermelon, melons, corn, peppers, all of our peppers. I think some cucumbers. Um, so, but as once we get the iguana problem figured out, we can figure out how to get a garden going without the iguanas coming in and destroying it. Then we'll start to be a little more self-sufficient and be able to have our own all of our own fruits and veggies. She doesn't play music, thankfully, and I say three doors down, but it's down the street, and there's a house in the corner, house next to there, and then there's a big open space of property, and that's the lady who lives down there at the other end of that property. It's a big open field. She lives at the end of the field, so it's actually like it's not close three doors down. It's like two doors and then walk for a couple of minutes past the big huge open field to get to her house where she's got her chicken farm set up. Um, and then Chris just bought all her chickens like a month ago, so that we're going to be able to. We will have our own chicken. We'll be slaughtering our own chickens here in about 3 months, probably 2, 3 months. We'll be slaughtering our own chickens. We're pretty sure at least three of them are roosters. Two are definitely hens. We're not sure about the fourth yet. I think it's a rooster, but it could be a hen. We'll need another week or two to determine that. But we'll start slaughtering our own chickens soon. I say we, it'll be Chris. I'm going to watch because I've never done that. Like I grew up on a farm, dairy farm, but we always just, anytime we need meat, you send the cow off to the slaughterhouse. We don't actually do it on the property. And I never grew up hunting because my dad was never into hunting. So I've never actually done the slaughter butcher process. Um, so Chris grew up killing chickens, and so she's like, "Nope, I got it covered." She's like, "We can get a pig too if you want a pig," and I was like, "I like bacon. Maybe we'll see." Um, and we do have a nice house. We do have a nice house. It just needs a lot of work. It's just. I can't wait to show everybody the video that I showed my brother when I moved in, which was the state of the electrical in this house when we got here. That was a shock to me. Like, I did not know people would live like that. And the people who lived here before were definitely just subsisting. Like, they were renters, they're poor people, and we live in a small town with a lot of people who are on the economic bottom rung. And there was only, like, this outlet right here was, there was stuff broken off into it. You couldn't get any point. There was no actual boxes in the outlets with the three prongs with the ground. It was just the two slots. There's no ground connections in here. And there were only one, two, three, four boxes in the whole house. The rest of the electrical outlets were completely empty. Like it was just wires stubbed out. The house has been here 20 years, and there were no electrical outlets connected to any of those boxes. 20 years down the road, it was just wires stubbed out. And then the wiring here was just basic, cheap ass, like I don't even remember. Um, but the house was literally only wired for lights and outlets 20 years ago. So no one ever wired it for electricity, for appliances and air conditioners and washing machines and electric ovens and big refrigerators and all that other stuff. So the first thing I had to do when we got here was get the whole house rewired. Um, and that in and of itself was not the way you would. It wasn't the way I was accustomed to doing things because it's all block construction, and because the existing pipe stubs, the existing conduit that they ran for the wiring from 20 years ago was tiny little conduit because all they used was tiny wires, the little thin wires for lights and electric. So to run the whatever they ran, 6 gauge or 8 gauge, I forget, but to run the big gauge wire that we needed to wire up to put circuits on every room and get an air conditioner installed and have my kitchen have its own circuit and have my office have its own circuit and everything else, they had to run thicker conduit, a thicker wire, and they couldn't get it into the conduit because it's too big. So they literally had to buy plastic conduit and just run it on the outside of the house and then just drill in where they're going to run it down, and then they pulled it through the boxes and everything else. So I don't see it inside the house, but outside of the house, I literally have plastic gray conduit running up from the meter box up the side of my house and then up to the roof, and it's up on the roof. Most of it's up on the roof, thankfully, so you don't see it. But on the front of my house, I have two plastic conduits coming out of the meter box, running up the wall of the house up to the roof, and from there they go off in different directions for my different rooms here now. So, you know, it works. But it's not. We've already talked about what do we do if we decide we want to build a second floor and everything else, and it's like, well, that's a whole nother conversation because this house doesn't even have 220. Like it's only wired up to the or 240. It's only wired up to 120 or 110. Sorry, it's 110, 220. It's only got 110. So most houses in the United States, as an example, or Canada, will be wired for 110 and 220. So you'll have both coming into the house. They'll use 110 for like lights, and then the 220 is for like your washing machine, your air conditioner, all that kind of stuff. There is no 110 and 220 here. It's literally this house is wired for 110. So if I want 220, I have to go to the electric company and fill out a form so that the electric company will come out and run a 220 line down to my house. So it's like there are things that I've had to deal with being out in the boonies that I never thought I'd have to deal with or anticipate. Lance says butchering chickens is about the worst butchering I've ever done. Chickens always seem the most tedious and dirtiest. We're butchering a lot at one time that you probably don't want to. No, we'd be doing one at a time. But I don't know. Chris explains it. It sounds dirty, but it sounds like she knows what she's doing because she's just like, oh yeah, you just kill it, throw it in a pot, boil it down. That makes all the feathers soften up, and then you can just you just take a knife, I guess, and just scrape all the feathers off, and then it's a corpse, and you can cook it how you need to. I I don't know. The way she explains it makes it sound simple. It's probably not. So I may be one of the few gamers that I mean, Joey has a ranch. I mean, it's kind of weird to have most people who are gaming are like in a city and there are a few gamers that don't live in the city and live out. Lance has some lifestyle. He's done some lifestyle stuff. Kel has some lifestyle stuff. He likes to go hunting and fishing. Gila likes to go fishing. So I feel like not everyone is a city slicker, which those are good movies, by the way. If you've never watched the city slicker movies, they're a little silly, but they're silly in a good way if you know anything about lifestyle, living in the countryside. They're quite amusing. So we were talking about homesteading at first. Homeschooling came up in Discord this morning, and I laugh about the homeschooling thing too, because I gotta answer this real quick. They're asking about people are asking about the our static group schedule for this weekend and everything for Yellenak. And Kel was just like, it depends on the weekends if Renfield gets woken up by his cats or not, as I discovered last Sunday. All right, anyway, homeschooling. So my sister homeschools, Sparrow homeschools, and I think that they're doing it the right way. Um, you don't necessarily need government in every corner of your life. There's nothing wrong with homeschooling to, you know, it can be done these days in a way that allows your kids to have a normal life. They have they're taught at home, so they do their schoolwork at home, but they can still be part of programs like my sister I think has her kids involved in something called Leap or something like that. So they still go out 2 or 3 times a week or whatever it is to go and be social with other kids, do activities, participate in school activities and sports and this other stuff. And I think that's a good way to do it. I was not homeschooled in a positive manner. My parents homeschooled us in the backwoods of Missouri on a dairy farm because my parents. All right, see you, Joey. Because my parents were very religious at the time and believed that the world was evil. And so they were like, we're going to move out into the middle of nowhere where there's nothing around so that we can be away from the evils of the world. Dr. James Dobson was their go to source at the time. And so we were homeschooled for several years in a bubble of religious extremism, which is not healthy for a growing child. Um, Kids need socialization, they need social activities. If you want your child to be a thriving member of society, they need to be normalized to society and be able to interact with other people on a normal basis and not turn out to be a psychopath. So I look at the way homeschooling has changed a lot since I was a kid, at least the way my parents did it, because nowadays you can homeschool your kids and you can actually integrate them into the school system and you get your school credits and you can do all these extracurricular activities and the sports and all that other stuff. And when I was growing up, it was not, at least my parents didn't choose to have us be that way. It was very much, we're off and you're not allowed to do any of those things. So I could say Sparrow's kids are awesome. Like I've not don't know them personally, but we've interacted with them a couple times on the stream and in videos, chats and stuff, and they're awesome kids. And my sister's kids are completely normal. Um, but my sister integrates her kids into society and does it in a good way. So that's another aspect of the homeschooling. You have some crazy people who take it to the extreme and are like, "Oh no, my kid, the government's not going to get my kids. Here's an AR-47, little Mr. 7-year-old." I'll never forget. It's probably 8 years, 7 or 8 years ago now. There was a senator who did and I think she does it every year. She does a Christmas card for her family members and everything, and it's literally her husband, and like there's 6 kids, and they're all standing in front of a Christmas tree, and they've all got like AK-47s and automatic rifles in their hands, and that's the Christmas card they send out to everyone. And I took that and I put it up against a picture of, at the time, ISIS was being considered a big thing, and so I took a picture that was circulating in the news of like that people were using to say, look at these religious extremists that are indoctrinating their children to use automatic weapons and fight against Americans, right? And so it was the extremists in a cave with automatic weapons, and kids were in the shot also holding guns. And I took that and I compared it to the picture of the United States senator who's doing her picture in front of the Christmas tree. And I asked a genuine question on Facebook. I said, "Can someone please tell me the difference between these two families because I can't see a difference?" And holy shit, the 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 craziness that ensued out of that Facebook post. And this has been, 7, 8 years ago now. This is before TikTok and all this other stuff. But the craziness that came out of that Facebook post, because so many people who are also homeschoolers and homesteader types traditionally are also extreme conservative, which is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong. I'm labeling right now. It's not a bad thing, but it's the government's out to get you. I need my guns to. Okay, I do draw the line at that. My brother and I have had some very good conversations about it because I grew up in a pro firearm family, and I don't have anything against firearms. They definitely play a good part in home defense, and if you're on a ranch in a family, nothing wrong with that. But it's beyond that. There's a greater discussion that needs to be had, and I'm probably diving into topics I probably shouldn't talk about on YouTube, or I'll get in trouble. Um, anyway, homeschooling can be bad if it's done in a crazy way. What's up, Junior? Just as homesteading can be bad if it's done in a crazy way. I'm trying not to do it in a crazy way. Chris and I are not psychos. We're not anti-government. Um, I'm anti paying taxes without using all the loopholes available to me in the system. And I don't support all the way that my money is spent, but at the same time, I like highway infrastructure and I like having good power and good internet and good doctors and hospitals. All right, what can we look at here? I'm going to go open up. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. Chicken coops. That was part of the conversation this morning. Chicken coops, because that's our stretch goal this month. Let me show you a picture of the chicken coop that I want to get. Um, Extremists are more likely to be homeschoolers, but most homeschoolers are not homeschoolers because they're extremists. That's a good point, Lance. And have a good work day, good sir. That's a very good point to make. Let's take a look at. I gotta find the screenshot now. I literally, Chris and I were looking at all these chicken coops on the internet, and then I randomly found this while I was running around Lord of the Rings online. There's this awesome chicken coop in Lord of the Rings Online that I think we're just gonna build. It's just there's that. Where's the other one? I'm gonna make my own. Um, it's this cute little. It looks complicated, but it's not. Obviously, mine won't be exactly like this, but on the right-hand side, let's put this up over here. So, if I can do this properly, the 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 bars that they've got, I can't do that. That'll be chicken wire. And the reason it'll be chicken wire is I can't do bars like that because we've got iguanas, and the iguanas will get in and get the eggs. So the bars have to be it needs to be chicken wire, and it can't actually be chicken wire. It has to be it's not called chicken wire. I'm forgetting what it's called, but it's like chicken wire, but it's a wire mesh that's very small squares that are about a half-inch square, and it's thicker than chicken wire, but it is a wire material. But we would end up doing that for that section. Um, Otherwise, I think this is totally doable because Chris only ever wants to have 4 to 6 chickens. So, and then that flip up box on the far side, which is over there, that flip up box, that's where you go and get the eggs. And there's like 4 bays in there. So if we're only ever going to maintain 4 chickens with a rooster, or 5 chickens and a rooster, or something like that, then I only ever need 4 or 5 bays for eggs. And honestly, we don't need more than 4 or 5 bays for eggs because we don't need that many eggs because it's just the two of us. So honestly, you know, 2, 3 chickens laying eggs are going to be enough for us. So I probably don't even need to build 5 bays. I could probably just do 3 bays or something. But anyway, that flip up section has the bay for the chickens to lay their eggs in. So you can put that down, put a latch on it. That's easy. Then you can have the overall structure with the ventilation, and that ventilation on the side can be just like it is right there. It's a slat ventilation system, a wood slat ventilation system. Um, or I could just build another uh, wire mesh window there. Um, is that what it's called? Crinkled? I'll be damned. It might have a brand name. Critter fence. No, 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 no. That's I know what you're talking about now that I looked at, but it's actually what is this here? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It really is kind of the same thing, to be honest with you. But what I'm looking at is, I'll show you which one. I got to go to the Home Depot website real quick. Use it in construction a lot. They call it a hardware cloth, is what it's called. Hold up. I got to go check the website. I guess these are just all sorts of brand names, but it's just they call it a hardware cloth. Here, I'm about to drop this in YouTube chat. I think somebody just joined or something. I'll check it out. Philo, welcome to the Adventurers Guild, sir. And a $5 donation. Thank you very much. Back again, Philo. Thank you so much. We're working towards the chicken coop stuff now, so that's what we're talking about. That's the stretch goal we're on now. That bar at the bottom. So thank you for that. Anyway, that hardware mesh is what they're calling it, or hardware cloth, whatever you want to call it. But it's basically just what you're talking about. Crinkled is a brand name, but it's the exact same thing. They've got different types of mesh that have different types of um, sizes for the mesh itself. Because we're using chicken wire right now because our chickens don't have eggs, and so that's just being used. We have a makeshift coop. I did a YouTube short on it. It's literally just I unrolled the chicken wire in a like a U shape, and it's connected to the chain link fence that we have. And so they've got a 6 foot by 4 foot space they can run around in now until we get a chicken coop built. Um, and it's underneath a tree, so they have shade all day and protection from most of the elements. But when it starts storming like it did last night, Chris has to run out and put them in a laundry basket that she has and get them out of the weather. So this is what I'm going to be looking at building is something like this. The hatch. This is the cool thing. Let me change the picture here. The reason this is the funny thing. Like Chris and I spent like 3 days. We looked at probably 100 different chicken coops, going, that's too difficult to build. That's too big. That's too complex. We can't get those materials here. Like this, that, and the other. And then these were too ugly, too simple, etc. And then I'm playing frickin' Lord of the Rings one day, and I'm running through Rohan, and I see this thing. And I was like, I'll be damned. I could totally build that, and it's actually kind of cute. Is this the one? I can't see the screenshots because they're so small. Yeah, so this is the back side where the chickens would be, and there's a ramp right here. They show this ramp. I might need to make that a little bit bigger for everybody to see this. So there's a ramp here coming down so they can get in and out during the day, right? And then we could have, if they want to come out. The cool thing is that that ramp, when they go up at night, I could put a pulley on the top. I could put a pulley on the top of that and put a rope to that and then run that rope out and have a latch on the outside of that so I can literally just get all the chickens inside, pull that ramp up with the pulley, and then clasp that on the outside, and boom, they're in for the night behind their mesh enclosure, and they can go in there if it rains or anything like that. And then we've got the egg berth on the other side. So this is pretty doable. I haven't done carpentry in 15 plus years, but this is absolutely doable. That's a bit of a project, but I think Junior was asking, am I going to do a video of the whole process? I absolutely am. It probably, I don't know, I'm torn. I kind of want to keep all of my homesteading. It's not homesteading. I kind of wanted to keep all of our, but we don't have a big audience on the other channel. That's our old YouTube channel from years and years and years ago that we used to use for our travel blog stuff. But we used to do a lot of Mexico content on there. So I've been wanting to just do the documentation process over there because the reality is, if I start putting too much of that type of content here on this YouTube channel, it's going to fuck up the algorithm. Because right now, the algorithm is keyed towards, oh, people like Renfail's channel because he does video games and Rings of Power and, Obi-Wan Kenobi and TV shows and stuff. And I want to keep this channel like that. I like the idea of doing variety stuff, but if I start doing too much homesteading stuff, it'll start to suppress all the gaming stuff. Um, in the algorithm. So I've been thinking about keeping the documentation stuff over on the Marginal Boundaries channel where it's all, hey, we bought a house in Mexico. Here's what it's like buying a house in Mexico. Here's what it's like building a house in Mexico. Here's what it's like living down in Southeast Mexico, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because technically, we do live here most of the year. In a perfect world, we spend half our time here and half our time in Missouri. That's in a perfect world, we split our time 50-50. But once COVID hit, we've just stayed down here. And now that travel restrictions are starting to lessen and everybody's either been vaccinated or they've died, and the mask mandates are coming down, and we don't need to do COVID tests before you go and after you arrive and all this other stuff. Travel should start to normalize again. So we're hoping that maybe we can go back up for the holidays. If not, we're definitely going to be up there next year because Joey and I are doing stuff with the blackberries and the blackberry cultivation, and we're trying to get that going as a side venture that's going to be run through Wandering Hermits, which is going to be blackberry brandy and um, uh, stuff. Junior says, I purchased a shed in a box 10 by 10 and a small coop to fit inside for the shelter, and they have half my yard to run around. That's nice. Crinkle says, if it doesn't fall over in a strong wind, you built it right. I agree. I agree. Well, it'll be uploaded somewhere, Junior. I just don't know where I will be doing that. If I'll be doing it here on this YouTube channel or if I'm going to be doing it on my other YouTube channel so that I keep the two separate. But either way, I'll still be promoting it here and in Discord, even if it's published at the other place, um, just because. And at some point, the beard will go away. But here's the thing. The beard started growing when I cut my hair off, and Chris wanted me to grow the beard out for a little while. I grew the beard out and it got long, and then she was like, "Oh, it looks like Gandalf. Just keep it for now." And then we kept going, and then she was like, "Cool." Then we got out here. This beard is a fucking hassle anytime I do yard work. Like even if I put it up, and tie it up, it's still like I've got this thing hanging off my face that gets in the way anytime I'm like shoveling and you're just sweating into it and you're getting dirt in it and everything else. And I really am, I'm not gonna lie, I'm tired of the beard. I like the look of the beard, but doing yard work and construction with the beard in the 95-degree heat with 75%, 85% humidity sucks balls. It sucks so bad. But I can't cut it off because I'm committed to the Renfail the Bearded Dwarven Princess gig for Rings of Power, which it means I got to keep the beard until at least the end of the year. And I've also said that, well, I want to see what terminal growth is like because September will be 2 years. In September, I'll have been growing the beard for 2 years. So it's like, but I was like, Joey and I were talking about like the Duck Dynasty guys. Like originally, those beards were just a thing they did every year when they were going to go hunting. They would grow their beards out for the hunting season and then they'd shave their beards off. But then they got the show and that became a trademark of the show was these bearded dudes running around with the Duck Dynasty bearded dudes. So they had to keep the beards for the show. And I'm to the point now where it's like I've kind of got to keep the beard for the Renfail the Bearded Dwarven Princess part of my YouTube persona, which is not even a persona. It's just a name I gave myself for those Rings of Power videos and the Mondays in Middle Earth stuff. So all the Lord of the Rings stuff I'm doing, this has to stay. Auction off the beard. I might do that. Try a beard mask. I could do that, actually. In any case, chicken coop will be coming. That's the that's the next project. It'll probably be well as soon as I get a power tool kit, we'll start working on that. Which we're gonna look at everything next month. If next month goes as good as this month did with YouTube, then I'll be able to say, okay, yeah, we can justify getting a power tool kit and go from there. This has been a good month for YouTube, so I've been very happy. Yeah, man. Like honestly, I didn't like the look of it until it got about to the 8-inch mark, and I started going, okay, this looks okay. And then I was okay with it until we moved here, and it's just so hot and humid, etc. I've always just worn do rags because I used to have long hair um, for a long time. I had a long hair most of my life. I don't know how many of you have been here since before I cut my hair off, but if you go back to my YouTube videos from 2 years ago, I had hair almost down to my butt, but just it getting thin on top and thin in the back, and it was just time. I don't have perfect genetics, so also I'd had long hair my whole life and was like, I'm ready to just whack it all off. But I'll tell you what, I've also been like, maybe I should just grow it out again and be a crazy long-haired old hippie dude on TikTok and YouTube. A true neck beard. Um, but in any case, this month has been. Last month was good for YouTube. This month has been way better. Um, everyone's been very supportive of the journey to full-time content creator, and it's been really cool because we're trying to. So I'm doing a lot with Sparrow and Nathan Napalm and Kel. Um, Kel's sort of he's not really a streamer, but he's streaming with us in several of our groups that he's building up. Sparrow is working on being a streamer. I don't know if Kel has objectives to being a streamer yet. I think he's just I haven't really talked to him about it that much. I know he's streaming with us, whereas Sparrow is definitely trying to become a streamer. Nathan just quit his job, and he's going full time. He went full time June 1st. The same, like right around the same time that I decided that I was going to go full time on YouTube and not go look for another job. So it's a very interesting. Like we've had some super cool conversations about you know the three of Sparrow, myself, and Nathan, like talking about what we want to do, how we want to grow, the way we're growing, all the things we're doing together with P99 and World of Warcraft and the EverQuest TLP and I mean I'm not playing ESO with them, but I know Sparrow's doing ESO on like Wednesday nights. Um, and Nathan does stuff that I don't do, but we're at least together for some of the games that we play. And that's a lot of fun, and it's also a cool journey to, I love them or hate them. I really like watching guys like Doctor Disrespect and Asmongold and learning from what they did to get really really big. Not saying that those are things that I want to do, but it's an interesting thing to watch the journey of what they did in the beginning to transition to full time to then transition to growth. Um, both cases we've got personas, and I don't like the idea of having a persona per se, but the way that they grew with surrounding themselves with other people who are working on the same type of thing, so you're all growing together. It's a very good way to do it. So I'm really happy that I found a good group of people who we're doing all the games together. We're playing Dungeons and Dragons together. You know, doing all the all that stuff together. I mean, Nathan's doing artwork for us. I've got Sparrow's daughter Becca's doing some really cool artwork for us. Um, so it's been a lot of fun with those people. And it's if you didn't watch us last night, we went and did um, Nomergon last night in World of Warcraft Classic. That took way longer than we thought it was gonna. That's a big dungeon. If you're doing it on level like we did a good run. We didn't have any wipes. We took our time, but it took 3.5 hours. Like It was a long dungeon, but we got to 30. Most of us got to 30 last night. We still got to get Nathan and Sparrow to 30, but my brother and I got 30. Maduros got 30. So we all got our mounts last night. The three of us got mounts, etc. See you, Junior. Yeah, yeah, they're good people. Um, and I've known, here's because they're all part of the Pantheon Plus community, and they're all big into Pantheon. Um, I'm interested in Pantheon, but I was also a lot of people don't know this. I was their first community manager. I was Pantheon's first community manager. Right after the Kickstarter, you go on their website, you will find me, TW Anderson. I was the first community manager. I was doing videos in Playa del Carmen on the beach around their Kickstarter and like promoting it. And Brad reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to come be the community manager?" And I said, "Fuck yeah." But I only lasted about 3 months because I left with everybody when Brad took the paycheck, and everybody went, "Screw you, Brad," and left the project. I left with everybody that left. I left. The whole team left. It was literally the whole team left. Um, and at least all the the important people who were writers and programmers and everybody else, because that really was it was an unfortunate thing that happened. And so I've seen that project go through multiple teams, because after that he got the crazy religious lady with her kids who worked on the project for like a year or two, and then they went away, and he got a different team, and like the third team is kind of the team that has become the team that is there now. Um, so I look at Pantheon, and because I walked away from that very early on, after only having spent 3 months, that was when I looked at it and said, well, I know if we could do that with Unity, I'm going to go build my own game. And so I went and started working on the Saga of Lucemia, and then I spent 7 years working on the Saga of Lucemia, managing a team of 20 people and raising all the investment money and everything else. Um, and I know what it takes to produce an MMORPG now. I didn't before, I do now. And that's why I'm very much interested in Pantheon, but I also know their journey to where they are today, and I know that it's not coming out for the next 3 to 4 years, maybe five. It's still years away. So I'm supportive of what they're building. I'm interested in what they're building. I have publicly said the moment that they make the claim, we're ready for alpha, here's the alpha date. The moment alpha actually gets to that and we're actually in alpha, I will pre-order that game and I will be a part of the alpha community. But I won't be a part of pre-alpha because I know what pre-alpha is, and pre-alpha is just it's you're making too many changes, you're iterating too much, you're changing teams, you've had 3 different team iterations. The current team has been working on the game has been working for about 4 or 5 years now. So if you think about it that way, they're only 4 or 5 years into their development cycle. Um, and an MMORPG can take 7 to 8 years, so they're only about halfway through their dev cycle, because the previous 2 iterations don't count because those team members are no longer there, and those iterations no longer exist. So I see a lot of people who are like, "Oh, but Pantheon's been in development for 12 years or something like that." Not really, because the first iteration got thrown away, the second iteration got thrown away. Now they're on to their whatever iteration. Um, Yeah, Philo. Literally, you can go back. I still have messages from Brad apologizing after the way things went down. Um, it's when I go log into their forums. It is what it is. People are flawed and people make mistakes. And from a visionary perspective, he's got a good vision, but he was never a good. He wasn't. He was not the right person to be the CEO of a company ever. But from a visionary perspective, great creative director person, just not a good CEO person. In any case, I'm looking forward to Pantheon, but I know like I'm bringing that back around to the community component because Bounty and Sparrow and Nathan, and they're all very keyed into the Pantheon community. I think Jason here is from the Pantheon community as well, etc. Crinkled, I think, as well. Um, I'm very interested in Pantheon, but I'm not into that community the same way they are. Which means when it comes time for Pantheon to come out, if you'll notice, like right now, like for P99, World of Warcraft Classic, and EverQuest TLP, Nathan and Sparrow and Bounty Code and all of these people who are doing amazing things and are part of all this community that we're doing. We're all part of the Raven Syndicate, which is the gaming community centered around our Discord, um, the Wandering Hermits Discord. I don't have any desire to run a Pantheon guild, so when the time comes for Pantheon to actually launch, I'm gonna go join Nathan's guild. Like I'm gonna be like, dude, this is your time to shine. I'm just gonna sit back and be a peon in your guild and just run groups and have fun. Um, but I'm not actively going to run a Pantheon community, or at least that's not the plan at the moment because I don't have the passion for Pantheon that Nathan and those guys do because I worked on it early on and I've seen it change so much. It's like I'm interested in it as a game and I can't wait to play it, but I'm not invested in it enough to like watch the dev streams because honestly when I watch the dev streams I'm just like okay, yeah, that's interesting, but I don't find it to be like revelation. Revolutionary is one word. I'm not looking for the word revolutionary though. It's not the things they're sharing aren't revelations to me. Um, it's like when there's a new fog system. Okay, cool. There are six different fog packs that you if I can say that right, six different fog packs that you can buy from the Unity store, and you just buy one and integrate it into your system, and yeah, you can customize it, but that's not a revolutionary thing for me to see new fog in the game, or new lighting in the game, or a new skybox in the game, or to me, it's like, okay, the network stack that they're talking about, that is enlightening would be another maybe word to look at it. The new networking stack they've got getting ready to implement, or that they just implemented, because Nathan was talking about the other day. That interests me because a new networking stack means that they're ready to start testing networking. And when you start testing networking, you're talking about getting people into the game. And that means actual testing, actual progress testing beyond the dev team poking their fingers around and doing little things here and there, and actually starting to take all these systems and put them into a social space where people can go in and start breaking things. That's interesting to me because that for me is forward progress. Um, but I have found so far, I have found that all the Pantheon community that Nathan and Sparrow are part of, like the Pantheon Plus crew, all those people are very good people. I find those to be very real, legitimate, like good people, just good gaming people. And we're all in our 40s and 50s. I feel like most of us in our 40s to 50s. We're not boomers, but at the same time, we're Gen Xers who love games and we love community. And so I think there's a natural gravitation to community-based gaming with those people, which is why we enjoy playing EverQuest and EverQuest 2 and Project 1999 and World of Warcraft Classic and all this other stuff. Um, So I am blessed to be surrounded by good good people who like the game and just are solid people. Um, have I seen 11 Robots interviews with the original EQ divs? Um, yes. If that's the one that came out like last year, I'm thinking that's the one I'm thinking of. Because he had Tony on there, and Tony was talking about how he's not doing game dev anymore. And I haven't talked to Tony in about 4 years, and I hadn't realized that he got out of game dev. But um, Tony worked on a lot of different projects over the years. EverQuest 1, EverQuest 2, that sci-fi one that was also a sci-fi channel TV show. I can't remember. Um, I mean, he did all the maps and everything for Pantheon. Created all the original lore for Pantheon. Tony was a creative dude. Good creative guy. Good storyline writers, quests and stuff. But yeah, he got out of game dev because it was just if you're not a programmer, it can be difficult. If you're not a programmer or an artist, it can be difficult to find employment in the gaming industry because Defiance, thank you. That's the one, Maduros. That's the one I was thinking of. I think that was one of the other projects. Not, I don't think that it was. I know it was. It was one of the projects that Tony worked on. Um, if you're not an artist or a programmer or like a VFX person or something, it can be difficult to find employment in the gaming industry because nobody cares about the creative side because any monkey can have an idea, and most projects are formed off of the ideas that the founders have. So the founders already have the idea, the founders already have covered the writing, the founders are going to do all the writing and everything else. Um, yeah, I've watched a couple videos. I watched Nathan's video on Monsters and Memories, and I know that Bounty Code's been talking about it a lot. I didn't know that was the same person. It's an interesting project. I mean, I looked at it and it went, okay, cool. It's another, man. So I sound really jaded when I say this, but I think it's because I spent almost 7 years as the creative director on an MMORPG project. I just don't get excited about, I don't get excited about indie MMOs. I just can't. Um, I can look at it and say, that looks cool. That's interesting. But I also know the amount of work it takes to actually get that fucking thing out the door. And I'm just kind of ambivalent to the whole thing. I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. You're working on a project. That's awesome. Hopefully it sees the light of day, but I'm not going to pre-order, I don't pre-order MMORPGs anymore. I will definitely pre-order the shit out of single player games because I know that those are realistic and will see and can see the light of day. So I do a lot of stuff on like I'll do Kickstarter projects and Epic Games, GOG, Steam. I'll support lots of indie teams, but the MMORPG ones I have a hard time wanting to support just because I spent so long as the creative lead on a MMORPG from an indie perspective, and I know what a challenge that is to actually get something out the door. And I just don't have the time to wait 7, 8, 10 years for something to be released. It's like, oh, and the fact, yeah, and then the fact that like 95% don't ever make it. Oh, are you bringing me food? I was okay. Thank you. Um, you can. I'll come eat here in a minute. Thank you. I'll finish here in the next few minutes and I'll come eat. But thank you, Chris. What an amazing person. She brought me breakfast. I didn't even ask. She just knew I was streaming. So too many don't make it to launch because it just takes too much work. You're asking you're asking people to work for 7, 8 years or something. Many of them might not be getting paid because indie projects don't have funding. Um, Working on sweat equity only works so far because people will always burn out after 3 or 4 years of working on sweat equity. They'll start to go, what the fuck am I doing with all my spare time? My wife, my spouse, my significant other needs me. My kids need me. I'm missing football games. I'm missing soccer games. I'm missing the shows that I want to watch. And for what? I'm not getting paid. Like, when the fuck am I going to get money? And so you get 3 years into that, and a lot of people, I would say 95% of people are going to say, fuck this and move on because they can't handle the long-term vision. And I got roasted. Um, I'm probably the only person in the history of MMORPG.com that got an article pulled because I went above their heads and went to the owners. It went that high. So when I was still the creative on Saga and the CEO of Stormhaven Studios, I made some statements about crunch in the industry, and I said the vast majority of people complaining about crunch um, are just clock punchers. They're just wage slaves. They're clock punchers. And clock punchers are never gonna understand that the boss, or if you're the owner of the company, if you're the senior management of a company, there are legal obligations to investors and publishers and banks, which means that as an owner and as etc., you don't get the luxury of having time off. If I'm the owner of a company, my daily existence is crunch. I'm working 120 hours a week every week. I don't get time off. If somebody, because we're missing deadlines, I'm legally responsible for that kind of stuff. So as a business owner, I don't believe that crunch is something that people should be complaining about, especially when you're getting paid overtime. When you're getting paid overtime, you're being compensated for that crunch that you're working. Now, I understand that months of crunch on end, that's bad and that's bad management. But at the same time, if people are getting paid time and a half and they're being fairly compensated for that crunch, you don't really have a lot of leg room to complain because the guys at the top, the owners, the senior management, they don't get paid extra bonuses for crunch time. They just have that buried in their salary because it's part of the responsibility of being there. Anyway, one of the my quotes were taken entirely out of context, and the MMORPG, one of the peons at MMORPG.com ran a hit piece on me and took all of my quotes entirely out of context and came after me personally and was saying how I'm this asshole who believes that everyone should be a slave and everything else. They actually, the owners of MMORPG.com, made them pull that article, retract it, and issue a public apology to me because of that. And I made those comments at the peak of, being the creative lead and CEO of an independent company developing an MMORPG because people don't understand the amount of work that goes into being a part of a sweat equity team where you're 7 years in and you haven't seen a paycheck yet, right? You're 7 years in and you haven't had a paycheck and you've been working every spare moment of your time, every spare moment. You're sacrificing Netflix, you're sacrificing gaming, you're sacrificing your significant other, creative times, you're sacrificing all the other things that you could be doing in order to try to get a product out the door so that you can eventually, maybe, hopefully, reap the rewards of putting all those extra hours and time in. Yes, the wage, if you're a clock puncher, you have zero risk. You can literally call in at any time and say, I'm sick, I don't want to come into work today. I'm going to take a personal day because my mental health won't allow me to work. By the way, that's not me joking about mental health issues, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Mental health days are very real, and I take mental health days from time to time. And I'm being very sarcastic when I make these comments in this way. So context being everything here. As an owner, you don't get to say, "Oh, my mental health," "Oh, I'm not feeling good today. I don't want to go in." "Oh, my favorite game is launching tomorrow. I'm sick. I can't come into work," right? As an owner, as an owner, I don't get to be the clock puncher. I have to be there. If someone calls in because I'm sick, I have to make up for that. And if there's no other employees to make up for that, I personally have to make up for it, which is why the owner never gets much. That's why I look at most independent MMORPGs and I don't have any faith that they're ever going to reach the finish line because after 3 to 4 years of sweat equity, most people will dip out. They will completely dip out and they won't continue. Not all. Hey, Scribbles, what's up, man? You are a clock puncher now. Speaking of mental health, I'm taking off next week. Um, I haven't had a day off in a while, but I'm pursuing full-time YouTube now, so I'm really enjoying where I'm at. I guarantee you I will hit burnout here within the next, not burnout, but I guarantee you I'll hit by the end of July because we're going to be starting the Kickstarter in mid-July. By the time we get to the end of the Kickstarter, I'll be wanting to, I'll probably take a few days off and just be like, I need to decompress, etc. So on that note, stay tuned because the Kickstarter for the Weave and the Void stuff is coming in mid-July. But that's going to be that's for the hardback versions of the books. The product's already out. It's a great thing about the way we're doing our Kickstarter is because the product's already there. I'm not pushing a dream on anybody. It's like product's already there. You can go watch us live stream it every Sunday night on the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Weave and Void. Myself, Nathan Napalm, Bounty Code, Sparrow, Skinny, my wife, my brother. We're all streaming that campaign. So it's a product that's already out. The fifth edition tabletop book launched May 31st. We're live streaming the campaign. You could buy the map packs. You can get all that stuff over at the Patreon page. the Kickstarter is literally just for the hardback books that people want to cover print costs. Um, I literally just ordered the two print proofs yesterday. We got two proofs ordered yesterday. One is for a standard print colors, and the other one is premium print colors. Um, and once Joey gets those two books in hand, we're going to compare the two to see which one is an acceptable level of quality. Because if the standard is an acceptable level of quality, we're going to go with that because it's much cheaper to print on demand. The premium colors are more than double the cost, which is expensive. Do I have a like post office box set up? No. No, 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 no. We will be doing it all unless things get out of hand. Joey's just going to do it all out of his house. Um, until and unless things get out of hand. We're not big enough to have to worry about doing it that way yet. But yeah, that's coming on the pipeline. So that's the flip side of this conversation of me saying the reason I don't want to be involved in MMORPGs anymore is because after doing that for 7 years, burning the candle at both ends, and also having a very unpleasant experience with business partners, um, which is an ongoing litigation process that's going to probably go on for the next 3 to 5 years. Um, I'm happy to be working on a small project with my brother and my wife where we can just hire out subcontractors from time to time as we need it, and we can do it all ourselves. Like, first part's already out. The point and click game will be out later this year. The book series, I don't have to rely on anybody other than myself to work on. Chris does the artwork. I do all the writing for the tabletop. Chris does the artwork. Nathan does artwork. Sparrow and Bounty's daughters help him with the artwork. I mean, it's a small project, and we get to do it with the friends and people that we're having good times with, so that works for me. And I don't have to deal with a 7 year development cycle because this is stuff we can actually do within 18 to 24 months, which is a lot better for the consumer. It's a lot better for us. It's short dev cycles. We may do an open world RPG at some point, but that's a maybe if perhaps sometimes. I got to go eat breakfast, everybody. So thanks again for the support. We are now into the stretch goals for the chicken coop. I don't have kids, Jason, but my cats do that to me. They think it's fun to get on my or attack my beard when I'm doing push-ups. We're on to stretch goals, ladies and gentlemen, because we hit full-time goal for the month. So thanks very much. We're on to the stretch goal number one, which is chicken coop supplies. So if you want to contribute, you can during live streams, do super chats and stickers. You can also join as a member of the Adventures Guild. Philo joined today. Thanks so much. Thanks for the $5. Last night we had Strixbic joined and donated $20. We also had somebody joined the day before that. Caleb joined the day before that. We've had a whole bunch of. It's been a great couple of days for YouTube here. So thanks everybody. I will be back in a little bit. I got to eat breakfast and see what Chris needs to do or wants to do today. Probably be back doing some Assassin's Creed Origins this morning. Tonight is P99 at 5 p.m. Central Time, so hopefully we'll see you tonight as well for that. Thanks for hanging out this morning, folks. Have a good day.